Fantastic. Okay, welcome everybody to this session. And so it is the UN Datathon Privacy Enhancing Technologies track. We are doing the Oblivious Office Hours, and today we want to focus on coding regression models. And I will also share some of the information about the data set that has been shared on the UN, the details of which have been shared on the UN Wiki. So I will show that to you guys as well because I think people can already start looking and exploring some aspects of this data set because the information has now been made available. So we'll go through all of that. Um, again, this is one of the sessions we are doing in a long series, and you can see the recordings of any sessions that you have missed. You can go to the UN Wiki and you can see the past sessions there. We have only 2 sessions left. Tomorrow, we are going to do a deep dive into joining data sets. It's a library deep dive, the same way we did one for pandas. Um, and then finally on Thursday, we will do a kind of overview session on how to set yourself up really well for the full Datathon itself. And we will also have somebody from the FAO team. FAO is the team within the UN who are providing the data set. FAO is Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. They are the ones who are providing the data set for the PETS track. So we will have somebody from there to answer any or all questions you guys might have on the data set itself. Um, yeah, so the presentation from yesterday will go up on the wiki as well, Thabiti, and you will be able to see it there. So the recording will be in the wiki in one place. And I'll just show quickly on the wiki where things are going. So basically, we have the UN stats wiki, and all the recordings are going in the Oblivious office hours. So I'll just share this in the chat. So you can see some of the previous sessions are going up. So hopefully these ones will also come in shortly. Now, in the wiki itself, now the dataset part also has gone in. So hopefully everybody is sort of keeping an eye out for this. I'll just double check. So, and this is the link where the abstract dataset has gone in. I'm sharing this link in the chat as well. And this is where you can really start seeing the information about the data set that is coming in. And we will go into this in a minute as well. To set yourself up, what I will do is if you're joining us as a new joiner, and if you don't have already got your account or anything set up, please use this time to just go on antigranular.com, just register for an account using your Google ID. You don't have to fill out any profile details or anything like that. And then please go in notebooks, and that's what you will be needing to follow along with us in the coding session. While you go and set that up, I will just walk you through what information has been put in about the PETS track dataset. So as I mentioned, the data is coming from FAO. They are sharing their data set. Data in Emergencies Information System is the source of all of this data, and they have provided a lot of very useful information for you to read through on exactly what the data set has, how the data set is generated using the surveys, what kind of summary statistics are available on the data set, as well as the different columns. So just to give everybody a quick context, so the data set that you will have access to will have around over 350 columns. So this is a very, very large data set. And then it has over 100,000 rows. And so it's a really, really, really rich data set that they have collected through surveys. And this is the data set that you will have available at the micro level. So obviously in the secure enclave. And so the data set has household level data, which is you so Thabiti, the data set is not publicly available. So this is a private data set that FAO is sharing through the secure enclave, and you will not be able to scrape it or collect it. You will not have level access to the record level information. That is why they're providing it through the PETS track. The data set summary statistics are available in this type of table. So if you visit some of these dashboard links, it will show you the kind of country level information at various aggregate levels. And the information will give you a better idea of the kind of interesting aspects that this data set has. So this will load in just like a couple of seconds, talking to the database at the back end. But you can see that this is super up-to-date data. It's already just like some are from August, some are even up-to-date to October. And this gives you summary statistics on the data set already, but not record level information. The record level information will only be in the secure enclave. So this type of stuff will allow you to start exploring the data set. The team has already also very kindly provided some of the themes that you can explore in the data set. So at the very bottom of the page, you can see that they have provided the three main directions of research that you can use to explore the data set in the UN Datathon. And basically, each theme, they have provided multiple questions or themes you can start thinking around. And this means that you can pick one of these themes, look at the summary statistics that you're kind of seeing on the country level information, and you can really start formulating a question you will answer in the 72 hours of the datathon. So, and also the other important part to really see is this. This is a really important part of the data set. It is both the code book, basically to telling you how the data set captures information, but and specifically the field description table. This is the list of all the columns in the data set and what do they stand for. And so this is something I think you guys should start exploring already. Uh, so Moz, I don't think you need to register to the FAO Hub to access any of this. This is on the UN Stats Wiki. Um, the the link to the FAO already opens the summary statistics without needing any registration. You can just go and select in the wiki the relevant link, and when you click, you don't need any registration. Uh, and then so yeah, so those are the things that I think you can start looking into. There's all the metadata also provided that you can start exploring. And the data itself then obviously will be available from Friday onwards in the anti-granular website. I'll pause there. Are there any questions on this? This is obviously new information, a lot of new stuff that has gone into the wiki. So I'll pause there and take any questions on this data set specific thing. Um, So just so that Tabitha, I can understand, the thing is that web scraping is something you do if there is somewhere on the web where the data is available. But as I have mentioned, that the data set for the Datathon is actually a private data set. It's not available anywhere on the web for you to scrape. So uh, the question of is web scraping illegal is a tricky one, which I don't think I can answer to the fullest extent. It depends on in what capacity the license to the data has been provided to you. So I don't think there is one definitive answer on that. But for this context, there is nowhere on the web where you can go and scrape this data from. The data is only available in the secure enclave. And in the secure enclave, you cannot get row by row data to your private home directory. And that's the intention and the purpose, like, because we do not want to have people looking at the home level information. So yeah, to address Moses' question, how to access this data through the Datathon, do we need to download it first and then upload it? So no, actually what will happen is that in the Datathon, you will go to the anti-granular website, and then in datasets, there will be a new dataset that you will see here, which will be for the UN Datathon. And the same way we have been doing in the examples, when you click on that data set, you will get this type of session information saying UN Datathon dataset or something like that will be here. And then you will use that in your notebook or your Python script to access that dataset from the secure enclave. And I think we'll see that in more depth when we go through this notebook today. So you will not need to download the dataset. You will not be able to download the dataset. You will only be able to interact with the dataset through the secure enclave using private Python. Any other questions? All right. Then I think we will commence with the usual session. As I mentioned, obviously, purpose of these sessions is so that you have a great hackathon experience and that you can commence your journey on becoming expert data scientists who know how to get insights from data without compromising the privacy of individuals or institutions. And we will start looking at that. Louis, yes, that is correct. The main source of the privacy enhancing technologies track will be located in anti-granular platform. For the other data sets, because there are several data sets that you can see on the wiki, there is the whole very large section of all the data sets that are available. This pet one is the special kind of data set that is going to be only available through the secure enclave, and you will be able to access that through the anti-granular session ID. Okay, so without much, let's start looking at how do we then access these type of information or data set, and then what can we do with that. So first of all, to get started, the first line we always do in our notebook or wherever you are setting up your Python script is pip install anti-granular, and that basically will invoke the library that we need for private Python. Anti-granular is basically a private Python package that allows you to do responsible data science, and it allows you to get insights from data without looking at it. So once all the requirements for the private Python package are satisfied, then we basically go to the dataset itself on the anti-granular website. And from there, we copy the session ID from the dataset tab. So here we go to the dataset tab. There we copy from this model, this session ID information, and we put that in here. So I paste it, and you will know that it has successfully copied when it gives you all this, like, string of session information. Like you can see that previously it was just client ID, client secret. But once you paste it, this is your actual secret pasted here. And then when we run that cell, it basically establishes our link to the secure enclave. And you can see that this session ID is dataset specific. So that's what you will have, that when you will go to the dataset page for the UN Datathon on anti-granular, that will establish your link to the secure enclave that hosts that data. And so, yeah, if everything goes well, you will be ready to code. And as I mentioned in yesterday's session as well, that you, whenever you use this cell magic called percentage AG, that cell executes in the secure enclave environment with the data set itself. So if we look at this portion of the next cell, this tells us that this cell is going to run on the secure enclave. It has percentage AG. Now in that cell, we are going to install a few, not install, but just import a few more libraries and functionalities. We are getting OP pandas, which you might remember is the kind of private Python version of pandas, and then certain utilities specifically around loading the data set and exporting it. So we then basically you can just run this cell and it will execute. It will get our train X, train Y, test X, test Y, and then we can export certain things. So from the data set itself, we will be able to export the column. This in the file data set, you will have over 300 columns that you will be exported. And now this column script executed in the secure enclave, and it exported the name of the columns to your local environment. That's what the export function will do. And since now it is in our local environment, you can see that in this cell, I'm not using percentage AG because I'm running now this cell in my local environment. And the columns vector or the column series data is already in my local environment. So when I run that, you can see that all that information is available in my local environment. And this will help you keep track of all the epsilon you are using. And as you remember, epsilon is a measure of how much privacy budget we are using. The purpose of using a privacy budget is to basically limit how much information is like how much of the data set we can access without record level information. So the privacy odometer tells us how much epsilon we have used, and you will have a cap on how much epsilon you can use during the hackathon so that you do not exceed that threshold. You should run this function, and that will immediately tell you how much epsilon you have used. Okay. Now, we are going to run some more things in the secure enclave. And there we will look at we are basically going to do a histogram level data set. And we have created the histogram from like the buckets in the remote enclave, and then we have exported that into our local environment. And once that is done, you can see that we will be able to create a 2D histogram in our local environment. Now, just to like remind of like the best practices, usually if you are being super mindful about like everything that you're doing, if you run something in the remote environment, you can keep making sure that like you know what privacy budget you have done. So you can see that once this histogram thing was run, because I ran this cell twice, and it is using this one privacy budget. So previously, my privacy odometer was at 0. Now, my privacy odometer is saying that I have used 2 epsilon. And actually, if I run this cell again, this should update again. Like I will use more privacy budget the more cells I run. And so you can see that I think this will update to 3. Yeah. So now we will run in other aspects. So previously we ran the histogram on sepal length and sepal width. Now we are doing a similar one on petal length and petal width. Again, we are giving it one privacy budget. So once I run this, then you will see that I will basically use. I couldn't find the notebook and data set. Could you repeat the process? Yeah, yes, Moz, just give me 1 second. If you actually go to the anti-granular website and the notebook section, I'm using the iris dataset linear regression notebook there. I'll show this on the screen shortly. So again, I have run one more query, and just as a best practice, as I said, you should keep track of your session privacy again and again. So yeah, like now I have used 4 epsilon. Now, again, we are exporting the describe of the data set. We did this yesterday in our classification challenge as well. Describe is obviously a way for us to see some of the summary statistics of the data set. And then the describe epsilon as well. We have to determine like, okay, please use a particular epsilon that I give you. And so we export that, and the this now is in our local environment, and you can see the description of the data set, summary statistics as well. And as I mentioned, you keep track of your privacy at each step. Moaz, just give me a thumbs up if you are able to follow along. So this is what I'm doing. I'm on antigranular.com. I'm in notebooks. Sorry, not competition. I'm in notebooks, and I am using the Iris dataset logistic regression notebook. If you go there and you say launch notebook, then it will give you an option to use Google Colab, GitHub, or download in IPy notebook. I'm just using Google Colab. And to get your session ID, you'll need to click on the data set and copy this section of the model and paste it into cell number 2. Hopefully that is okay, and you are with us now on that. All right, so continuing on, basically, once we have done the initial steps of understanding the data set, what we basically want to now start doing is converting some of the values that might be continuous or values into ranges, or some things that are in strings. We want to one-hot encode them, and that's exactly what we do in this step. And to do that, we basically have created our own little mini function to do that encoding, and we are using apply map to apply that function to do that. Can you, so I have received a question on like, what does it mean that the epsilon 14 on the top? Apologies, but like, where do you see 14? Maybe I'm missing something. Like, I see 4, I see 5. Not sure where I see 14. Can you tell me cell number? Because they are in cell order, so 17, 18, 19 or something. If you tell me the cell number, then I'll probably understand a bit more which cell you're referring to. In here, maybe cell 14. Yep. So on the anti-kernel website notebook, right. So this will be the total epsilon that this notebook uses. So yeah, so this full notebook, this will use a certain privacy budget as we go through the full notebook, and that would be that's what's being shown here. That to carry out this full notebook, you need a privacy budget of 14. So that's just what it is indicating to you, that to follow along this tutorial, this is the epsilon you will end up using. So it serves as a good sanity check as you work through the example to make sure you have followed all the steps correctly. And then hopefully that helped answer your question. So now, as I mentioned, we are going to do the one-hot encoding on the data set. And that means that we will then have converted some of the columns that are as strings into numerical values that we can deal with. In this one, we are using a logistic regression model. Yesterday, we used classification ones, and so today we are using logistical regression instead. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, that differlib have several models that you can use, random forest classifiers, logistic regression, um, and you can look through the documentation to see which options are available with each. And in any particular model, you will have a fitting phase for uh, the data set itself on the training data set, and then we will do the prediction phase on the test data set. So now keep going forward. One thing to note again is that because we are carrying out various functions, here you can see that this is epsilon 10. So far, if I just insert a cell here to see our session privacy odometer, we will see where we stand. And then after that, we will see that like our privacy budget will suddenly, like obviously, use that an epsilon. And once we go through that, we want to basically keep a lot of our privacy budget for the fitting phases of the model. And so then let's look at our privacy budget. Our privacy budget should be 15 now, which it is. And just a reminder, because I mean, obviously we saw in the notebook it said 14. Right now it's 15 because I did a bunch of cells a couple of times just to show you guys. So if you do obviously the same function again and again, that also eats into your privacy budget. So then we basically have done a prediction here on the test Y using our logistic regression model. And here now we are exporting the test Y values that have been predicted. And so we can see that like what kind of values were predicted by the model. The main thing obviously to note here is that we had converted this into one-hot encoding. Previously, like here, we had converted our string values into one-hot encoding. And so that's why the values we have gotten are also one-hot encoded. And so we need to convert them back from the one-hot encoding into the string values, which is what we do in this section. And again, like I will just show you that because we have done all of this part on our local machine, we haven't changed our privacy budget. It's still at 15. So that hasn't changed. But your test Y has now converted from that numerical string into the value string. And because this example is from the sandbox, which is structured as a competition, so obviously you can submit that test Y into the values, and it tells you what your score is on the data set itself. And it also tells you the final privacy budget that you have to use. So I'll quickly pause there just to see if there are any particular questions on this example so far. And then after that, I'll give you a few more pointers. Okay, I No, so far no questions or anything, so I'll keep going. So just to quickly recap the main tips and tricks we have learned so far. The first is that we have understood how to import a particular data set, uh, not import, but access a particular data set in the secure enclave environment. We do that by taking the session ID from the anti-granular platform. We copy that into our notebook. And again, this doesn't have to be in your Google Colab notebook. This will have the same result even if you are doing this Jupyter Pi notebook on your local drive. You'll still be able to talk to the secure enclave. It doesn't have to be in a Google Colab. And then basically you apply the once you have the session loaded, you apply the one-hot encoding. I'll confirm the reason to that because Santosa, you have asked a question around that. We apply the one-hot encoding to convert the string level data set to numerical data set. The reason for applying this encoding is because string values cannot be treated with differential privacy in the correct way. So they have to be one-hot encoded in order to properly deal with them, because differential privacy will work with the one hot encoded data more correctly. The functions will work with it more correctly. So that this is the reason for carrying out that step. Um, and then finally, we have made sure that we are tracking our privacy budget at each step, and using this little functionality that we exported in the beginning. This allows us to make sure that we are not exceeding the privacy budget at any time. The reason I keep talking about the privacy budget is that during the hackathon, because you guys have registered as a team, your full team will get a certain privacy budget. And if any member of the team ends up like blasting through the privacy budget, the whole team's privacy budget is gone. So that's why like you guys need to be super mindful that you are using only the amount of privacy budget that you have decided as a team to use. And I think there will be a cap on the privacy budget, something like, I'm not sure what that number is going to be yet, but it's going to be like a 20-30 type of number. And then once you use up that privacy budget, that's gone. So that's the main thing to carry out like a simple logistic regression model. You could easily replace the logistic regression model with the other models that we used yesterday, and you'll be able to follow through in the same way. That notebook is also available here. You can see the first few notebooks are around the various classification and regression types. The next few notebooks that I think I would encourage everybody to try are the hypothesis testing one. It tells you how to, test certain hypothesis on the data that you can see. And the other one I would strongly encourage everybody is this car evaluation, exploratory data analysis one. And I'll show these briefly here on the screen as well. So this is the hypothesis testing one, and this essentially helps you understand what kind of initial steps you should be doing on a data set when you can't see it. And this would be good for everybody in your team to work through, just so that they have a very, very good understanding of how do we deal with this type of data. The good thing about this particular notebook is it also helps you think through strings of dates. And that is definitely something you will get in the FOW dataset, because the FOW dataset entries have a lot of dates in them. So working through this example will make you super, super comfortable about how to deal with dates and different formats of dates. That's one important thing to practice on. And then the second one is this very, very extensive notebook on it's called the car evaluation one because it's on the car evaluation data set. What is really good about it is it's a really extensive notebook, which again helps you work through every part of the pipeline, data processing, mapping different values from the kind of one hot encoding stuff that we talked about, as well as validating your different things. It also, the one thing that this notebook does is it creates a custom model. So instead, because so far we have been using the OpenDiffCryptLib models, this actually creates its own handcrafted rule-based model. So this doesn't rely on an out-of-box model. So if you are planning to build your own type of model, then this notebook also helps you think through what are the steps needed to craft your own rule-based model. So that's why, again, I would say checking out this notebook, it would be very helpful if you're specifically looking to craft your own model. Then I'll pause there, and just any questions on that so far, because we have covered a lot. Pandas rather than OP pandas. Yeah, so actually you can, so OP pandas and pandas, we are using both in various sections of the notebook. So whenever we are doing specific things on the secure enclave, we use OP pandas. And whenever we are doing things on the local kind of machine, we then work with pandas function. So you can see that the OP pandas is on the remote machine because it has that private data frame and private series functionalities. Whereas on the local machine, you can use your normal pandas functionalities with any data that you have imported into your local machine. So it's just the difference of which machine you're working on, and that will OP pandas versus pandas, yeah. And also in the notebooks, there is a whole kind of guide on the pandas one as well. Let me just double check. Um, okay, maybe that notebook hasn't gone online yet, but I'll make sure that that notebook goes online as well. We went through a full sort of pandas specific notebook on Friday, and it will be in the video, and I'll make sure that it gets uploaded here as well. Any other questions, guys? Any thoughts, concerns? So, and one important thing to see is that tomorrow actually we are going to look at record linkage, because obviously in the Datathon there are many data sets, and potentially you want to join different data sets to see what kind of new insights you could get by joining private data sets together. So tomorrow's session, if you are thinking of joining multiple data sets, tomorrow's session is all going to be about that, and we are going to look at two specific data joining libraries. One is called SP-Link, and one is called Record Linkage Library. So we'll look and contrast and compare these two libraries on how to join join the data sets in a secure enclave, and what kind of advanced insights you can start getting once you join data sets together. So yeah, that session would also help you get a very strong intuition on how we perform functions in a secure enclave. I'm also happy to address any questions broadly if you have on data science or machine learning, anything that you're thinking on broadly on the Datathon outside the PETS track even. I'm happy to answer or take any questions on that as well. Okay. I think then I will stop the recording here. I will stay on the chat for a few more minutes in case any of you have any further questions. And yeah, otherwise, I hope I will see you guys in the next couple of sessions. And thank you so much for that. Oh, we have a lot of questions coming in. So maybe we answer a few of these. Um, can we use machine learning for multivariate time series? Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely use that for multivariate time series. Um, like a lot of the functions and libraries that we have explored so far in this sessions, they will work, in most cases, they will work out of the box with multivariate time series as well. As long as you are doing kind of the standard data cleaning normalization things properly, they will work pretty easily. Yeah. Uh, do we have to apply this if we were using public data? Um, and also PetTrack is an optional choice, right? Yeah, absolutely. So PetTrack is an optional choice. It is just one of the tracks you can do. You can do the full datathon. And if you and you can have the same entry qualifying for the pet track in the broad general categories. So that would be that, like, by including the pet track does not mean you are disqualified from the rest of the datathon. It's kind of like a subset of the track. Then second question you asked is like, do we have to apply this if we were to be using public data? So no, not necessarily. If you're using public data overall, you don't have to use the secure enclave type of things. You can just do the other kind of things that AWS is providing. You can use the Esri things. You can use the NetApp stuff with the public data. So, or you can use any other public tools as well. You're not limited to these tools either. The main requirement is every part of the pipeline needs to be doable without needing licenses or paying for the stuff, because we are promoting obviously the open source ethos. Then second thing is that you can also join publicly available datasets with the secure enclave dataset to come up with new insights, and we will see how to join multiple datasets tomorrow. So that's another flavor. Uh, you asked a follow-up question. If you decide to use other programming languages such as R, would this work well? So far, I think we have focused on the private Python ecosystem. With respect to R, I don't think we have so much documentation available on how to wrap R libraries in Python. So if you are interested in exploring that and R is more familiar for you, I mean, I would encourage you to try. The only caveat I would have is that the documentation that we have so far is like focused on Python and may not cover library wrapping for other languages so well yet. And then finally, Jorge, you have asked a question. I think, yeah, yes, please ask us more questions as soon as you have tried some of the hands-on stuff. We obviously have some sandbox competitions available here, which you can try your hand on. We have 2 currently active sandboxes, and you can try out them and see if you are getting all the concepts and stuff. Thabiti, on using the local machine, so in this environment, actually you have 2 parts, right? Like you in all the notebooks, as I mentioned, you have you run certain cells using the percentage AG magic, which runs on the secure enclave. And then any cells that run without the percentage AG magic are actually running on your local machine. So for example, all these 2D histograms, they have been generated via our local machine. So they are not being generated by the secure enclave. The secure enclave generates the data, then we import that data or export basically that data out from the secure enclave onto our local machine, and then we make the plots and everything on our local machine. So we are using both the machines, but we cannot get the data itself onto our local machine. That's the important thing to remember, that the things that we are getting onto our local machines are summaries, they are described, they are summary statistics, they are column names. We cannot get the record level data information to our local machine. That's the main nuance. Another question we have, so why is the epsilon given as an argument? Can I give epsilon 1 for the logistic regression model? How will it affect the model? So you can definitely give it. So we have to explicitly tell the epsilon because we do not want to suddenly blow through the budget of the epsilon. The function needs to know what is the kind of privacy we are aiming for. That's what basically the epsilon does. It makes sure that the model is following our guidelines on how much privacy we want it to use. So let's actually just try, right? Like, let's try to give it epsilon 1 and see how it looks, or it does it throw an error or anything. My assumption is it won't throw any error. It will just use the 1 epsilon, and then it will just run with that. The difference is that this way the model may not have the same utility as it did with the 10 epsilon, because with the 10 epsilon we are saying like, okay, use a bit more of the data, don't obfuscate it so much. I want some value out of it, so like let me see the data with the 10 epsilon. When you use a smaller epsilon, you have more blurring on the data. If you remember from this picture we have been using, the car picture. So here is basically, for example, how it might look to the machine learning model if you give it 1 epsilon. It's like, okay, wow, it's so blurry. Maybe there is a car. And if you ask it like, hey, how many cars are there? If you ask your machine learning model, then it is like, I don't know, maybe there are 3 cars, because that's how the world will look like to your machine learning model with 1 epsilon. But maybe when you give 10 epsilon, this is how the data set will look like to your machine learning model. And now when you ask it how many cars are in the data set, it will be able to tell you, okay, there are like, 7, 8 cars in this data set, because even though there is more epsilon you have given it, it still cannot see record level information, right? Like you can see that I cannot still tell what is the car number or what is the phone number for this cars for less location, right? I can't see that in the data set. But if you give even more epsilon, then this is how the data set will start looking. You can look at car number. This is now private information, record level information, and this is what we avoid. You should not be able to see this type of information like phone numbers or car numbers. And this is how the raw data set potentially looks like. And then this is how the data set with epsilon looks like. So, okay, a few other questions. So I think, Dion, hopefully that answered your question around epsilon. Uh, Hopefully you have a bit more intuition around that. Awesome. So can I run all solutions on the local machine and don't use remote one? I so if you wanted to use the solution on the local machine, the thing is your local machine does not have access to the record level data set. That is something you need to remember, that if the data set itself does not exist in your local machine. The data set is only in the secure environment, in the secure enclave. So that's why when you see that all the model parts, the modeling and everything related to the model is happening in the remote machine where the data is. So the data is in the secure part, and then you send the instructions to the secure part. Hey, please run the model on the secure data set, and then tell me the result. So that's what we are doing, that all the modeling happens in the secure enclave, and we only export the results. And the results come to us in our local machine. So if you run the solution on the local machine, well, you will not have any data to run it on. Moz, I'm happy to answer more of that. If this was unclear, you can ask me more questions. So what is the privacy budget? The privacy budget is that you will be given an amount of epsilon that you can use for each of these queries on the remote machine. Okay, you can think that, for example, if I'm like a holder of the secure data and you are asking me the queries, with each of these queries, you have to pay me some money to ask me the query. Some queries are more expensive than others. And you will get, let's say you get $100 and that's your privacy budget. Now, I'm like the person who's holding the data. So you give me $1. You say, hey, take this $1 and tell me the mean of the data set. I'm like, great, like here is the mean of the data set. Then you give me $10. You're like, okay, train this model with this level of noise. Like if you give me $1, I train the model on this level of noise. If you give me $10, I train it on this level of noise. And then maybe if you give me $50, there is more. But obviously, I do not want people to see all my data set. Like maybe somebody is like, hey, take $10,000 and train it on this type of very low noise data set. We don't want that because this leaks the information. This leaks the private information. So that's why all participants get a limit on how much money or epsilon or privacy budget they can spend to ask the queries. So nobody can say, hey, take 1,000 because we will not give you 1,000 during the hackathon. You will have something like, 30 or 40 or 50 or something. And so you cannot ask the model, hey, train on, 10,000. You will just not have that much budget. Moz, does that help a little bit? Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to answer if there are any more questions on privacy badges, remote versus local. I know that this is like a new concept, so I can keep answering more on that. Yeah, it's a really sunny day today. I'm getting all the rays of the sun. So I guess you will provide us epsilon. So we will provide you a privacy budget. Yes, there will be a cap on the epsilon for your team. So you as a team will get like a privacy budget or basically your epsilon budget. And for all of the different queries, you will be able to decide how much budget you want to spend on the various things. Ideally, you keep most of the budget for the model training parts and not use it on just the describe functions or stuff. So that's where I was saying that please look at the wiki and all the information that has been provided to you offline already. So you don't have to repeat these type of things by using the privacy budget. So if you are thinking of doing something, let's say you are interested in taking a particular country from this list, and then you want to like maybe you're interested in Colombia, for example, and you want to do something related to Colombia. So I think you should go to the wiki and you should look at the summary statistics that they have already provided. And this is the same data, these summary statistics are from the same data set that you will have access to in the secure enclave. So ideally, if you want to, find the mean of something and it's already given here, please do not spend epsilon to find the mean, and instead just please look this up from here. That if you're like, okay, what is a particular value, just go and look it up here. Don't spend your privacy budget to do something that you can do otherwise. Yeah, and please save most of your epsilon for training the model, because when you give a bit more epsilon, your model can see a bit more clearly into the data and maybe can give you a bit more accurate answer. Any other questions? We have a sort of a couple of minutes left in the session. I think we might wrap it up there then. I will just reshare the links because like maybe a lot of people joined in the middle of the session. So here is the link to the UN wiki for the data set. You can go explore the details of how the data set was collected. At the bottom of the page, they have shared the themes they're interested in. So these are just suggestions, but these are ideally like things you explore. You can obviously come up with your own questions and themes as well, but the FAO team has suggested specifically what they want to see coming out of the hackathon. And so please explore these themes and the questions they have given. And then the documentation, if you are looking for the documentation on the Antigranular website, you can go and look at the docs. There you will find the details of the various libraries and the packages, the diff, prib, lib, Smart Noise, SQL, OpenDP, Pandas, everything is there in the documentation. I will share the link to the documentation here in the chat as well. Then if you are, for practice, I would encourage you to look at the notebooks. So I talked about 3 specific notebooks today, and I'm sharing that in the chat as well. Then some questions, yeah, documentation we have covered. Then can we assume that the remote machine is big enough to calculate all we need? So yes, we are making sure that the machine will be big enough for you to calculate everything, because the data itself is going to be over 100 MBs. So we are making sure that the machine will have enough capacity for that data itself, plus any stuff that you are going to do on the machine. Hopefully that answers everybody's questions. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I hope that I will see some of you or most of you tomorrow. As I mentioned, tomorrow's session, we are going to do the joining of the data set. And then after that, we will have our final office hours session on Thursday, in which we will basically talk about how can you make sure that you are all set, good to go, and yeah, we will take it from there. Please join the Discord if you have any follow-up questions. And other than that, best of luck, and yeah, see you all soon. Take care. Have a lovely day.